don't know where prices are gonna go, right? They could flatline, they could stop. I mean, they could reverse interest rates tomorrow and, you know, we could go back up. Like, I don't know.
You can't expect to get a deal in a couple months.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can get lucky, but let me tell you what I did. All right? So I'm gonna share with you what I have to do, the price I have to pay to get to where I am. The question you should ask yourself is, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to make the sacrifice?
But the other side of why I'm choosing to wholesale more now is because of the risk. There's a lot more risk in flipping houses. And for me at this point in my career, I don't necessarily have to take that risk anymore like I did previously. Now, door knocking is one of my favorite ways to get deals because it costs you absolutely nothing other than your time. We are gonna go door knock the neighborhood. Let's go over how you can make $10,000 in 30 days wholesaling real estate. In full transparency, $10,000 is a small wholesale fee for us. In the last few years, our average assignment fee has been over $25,000. But with the market slowing down and all these different things changing, let's keep it conservative and go over step by step how you can wholesale real estate in 30 days. First off, if you've never heard of wholesaling, it's much easier than flipping a house. Normally when you do a house flip, you've got to find a good deal, find the money to purchase that deal. Could be your money, could be somebody else's money, could be the bank's money. And then once you buy the deal, you've got to fix it up, get it renovated, get it really nice. Then you go and list it with a realtor. It then sits on the market waiting for a really good offer for you to take. And if it's in a market like we are today, then the buyers are a lot pickier. They're gonna want repair requests, they're gonna want the world. But assuming you get an offer and everything is square and their loan goes through, then you get paid and you make your profit. House flipping is great. I flipped hundreds and hundreds of homes, but it is a long process typically when you buy a normal house flip. On the other side, you can just wholesale, which is far less risky and way quicker cash. The way wholesaling works is you still go back to step one of finding a really good deal, but instead of trying to get the money to go buy the deal then fix it up, you instead just find an end buyer. You find a house flipper who's wanting to buy it themselves. You find an investor who wants to keep it as a rental property. And as long as you can find somebody who's willing to pay above what you have it under contract for, you can sell it to them without having to buy it yourself. You do this by assigning the contract to this buyer. So to make things super simple, let's say I get a property under contract with a seller for $400,000. Now at $400,000, I know I got a great deal on this. It's probably gonna sell for $550,000 once I fix it up a little bit. Instead of me doing all that, I find my buddy Tom, who's a flipper, and he says, Ryan, I'll pay you $420,000 for the home. Because he knows even at $420,000, he's still gonna make a large profit when he goes and sells it. So what happens next is I assign my contract rights to Tom. Tom is now going to become the buyer of this home. And Tom is gonna go get his own money either from himself, a bank, or another private lender. When it's time to close, he is going to wire $420,000 to the title company. The title company is going to take $400,000 and give it to the seller because that's what the original contract was for. And then they're going to take that $20,000 extra and give it to me. This is called an assignment fee or a wholesale fee. They're the same thing. And once that deal closes, I get paid and we're done. So you can see wholesaling is really cool because you can make a lot of money without having to take the risk of flipping it, especially in today's market, and not have to go raise money or go manage construction and wait to get paid when it finally sells. And I can tell you, as somebody who's wholesaled a lot of homes and flipped a lot of homes, I'm actually switching my business model to do more wholesaling than flipping. There's really two reasons for this. First is that it's easier for me to scale. Up to this point, I've always done around 100 deals a year as a mix between flip and wholesale. But the majority of what I've done was always house flip. And I kind of didn't want to flip any more houses because I didn't want to go find more contractors and raise more money. So we've always kind of stayed at that level. But the other side of why I'm choosing to wholesale more now is because of the risk. There's a lot more risk in flipping houses. And for me at this point in my career, I don't necessarily have to take that risk anymore like I did previously. I've got a bunch of other businesses that make me money, and so house flipping isn't my main source of income anymore. And so when you think about those two things, we can have less risk and we can make more money potentially and do more deals with wholesaling because we don't have the risk and we don't have to get contractors or money. We just have to get really good at finding deals and finding buyers. So let's talk about the ways to find deals. There are three main ways that you can do it. The first is on the MLS. The MLS stands for the Multiple Listing Service. This is pretty much every house that you see on Zillow on the market. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you wholesale a deal on the market? Well, you're gonna have to make a bunch of offers on these properties and get them below market value. If you're able to lock up properties below market value, there's always gonna be a buyer for it no matter matter what the market's doing. We have wholesale properties we got on the MLS many times. Now, how do you find deals on the MLS? Well, the number one way we do it is through auto searches. An auto search is a search that you set up on the MLS that notifies you instantly when a property hits the market that fits your criteria. So one of the most famous auto searches we'll do is called a price per square foot search. Essentially, we'll take a zip code and we'll look up what's the price per square foot in that zip code. Let's just say the average price per square foot's $200. We might say, notify me every time one hits the market that's $150 price per square foot or less. And sure enough, every time one of those properties hits the market, I get notified and we can make an offer instantly. And there are a lot of different auto searches you can set up, but I'm not gonna go super in depth on it in this video because we got a lot of things to cover. Now, the second way that you can go about finding deals is through other wholesalers. So maybe you found other wholesalers who are really good at finding deals, but maybe they're not so good at finding buyers. Well, this is an opportunity for you to do what's called a co-wholesale. So you and the wholesaler are gonna wholesale it together. Now, this could be structured in many different ways. Maybe the wholesaler says, hey, if you find a buyer, we'll split the wholesale fee. Or the wholesaler say, look, I need $410,000 on this property. Anything you get above that is yours. So maybe you've got a buyer at $420. You can go make $10,000 and the other wholesaler will make the spread between what they had it under contract for and $410,000. And that leads to the other way we find deals, which is through direct to seller marketing. Now, this one's gonna cost you money, unlike MLS and wholesalers, but it's the one that's gonna give you the biggest spread. Because there's no middleman, realtor, or wholesaler, you're going direct to the seller and you should be able to get the very best deal. Now, there are lots of different ways that you can get in touch with the seller. You could do things like text messaging, cold calling, pay-per-click, direct mail, TV commercials, Facebook ads, SEO, the list goes on. And each type of marketing channel is gonna have a different type of qualified lead. Some of those are what we would call outbound marketing techniques. An example would be cold calling or text messaging somebody. You are going out to them, you have no idea if they wanna sell their house or not. You're just playing a game of spray and pray. If you talk to enough people, 1% of them will say yes, they want an offer, and they can turn into a potential deal. The other side of direct marketing is through inbound leads. Now, these leads are gonna be a lot hotter because they are calling inbound to you. So a way to get inbound leads would be through the TV commercials or the direct mail. They see my TV commercial, they get a mailer from me, they call in and they say, hey Ryan, I got your mailer, I'm interested in selling my house. I know they're motivated because they called me. So these kind of leads are way better. You might be thinking, well, why wouldn't I just always go for inbound leads? Well, doing leads like this is really costly. Me running TV commercials cost a lot of money, but you can go cold call a lot of people for very cheap and get leads. So most people, when they first start out, usually tend to go towards outbound marketing because it doesn't cost a lot and they can do a lot of it. And as they get better, they then start to incorporate some inbound marketing, like I mentioned. Now, when it comes to getting deals, we do all three of those things, but I always recommend to people just getting started to focus on one. If you want to go on the MLS and dominate that because you don't have a lot of money, cool. Make offers on the MLS every day. If you want to go through the wholesaler route, great. Network with other wholesalers, and you can also network with other realtors to have them send you deals as well. If you want to start marketing, then start marketing. My suggestion is do some outbound marketing, get volume under your belt. Once you pick one of those and you're having some success, you're then able to go find a deal. Now you're saying, Ryan, how do I even lock up a deal? What kind of contract do I use? How do I know what I'm doing? What you can do is go to futureflipper.com and book a free call with my team. We have coaching programs and thousands of students all across the country who are absolutely crushing it. And whether you choose to join our coaching program or not, they will point you in the right direction. They will hook you up with some contracts and things for you to get started, even if you don't use us. So definitely book a call with the team because they're gonna help you a ton. But once you get a property under contract, you then need to go find a buyer for that property. Now, there are a few different ways that you can go about finding buyers. First way is to go join Facebook groups and market your deal in those groups. If you're in Las Vegas, then search Las Vegas Real Estate Investor. You're gonna get a whole bunch of groups that pop up, and you're gonna very quickly find the investors in your market. Another thing you can do is go to meetups. So if you go to meetup.com, you can go find other meetups that are being hosted around you. If you're watching this video, then you're probably on social media, and I can tell you most of the house flippers and investors are on Instagram. So if you just start looking for real estate content on Instagram, you're probably gonna be fed through the algorithm some of these investors in your market. And there are a lot of other complex ways to go find buyers, but those honestly are the easiest. If you have a really good deal, you are gonna find buyers in one of those three ways. Now, once you find a buyer, you can go wholesale them the deal and go make your 10,000 bucks in 30 days.
A lot of people are trying to figure out, hey, what's up with this real estate market? What are you guys telling your franchisees right now? How do you navigate this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the beautiful thing about wholesaling is that you don't expose yourself to tremendous loss when the market shifts.
Yeah.
And yeah, things slow down. Like we had a couple of months there where our volume wasn't where it would normally be, but it bounced back. And it's bounced back in a way right now that, we might not have the same number of deals, but our deals are bigger right now. And because our deals are bigger, because we're buying deeper right now, actually we're doing better than we would have a few months prior to the market shifting. And I know that people might be looking at it and be like, wow, really? A wholesale business doing better than where it was? That's actually what you can do right now by taking advantage of the buying opportunities that exist out there. And we're really doubling down on that messaging with our franchises, because I'm literally watching sellers right now listed on the MLS take half. Half. So think of that, right? It used to be this model where if you wanted to get a wholesale deal, the best way to do it was to go off market. And the reason for that is you would maybe catch somebody who wanted to trade some equity for speed or convenience, or maybe they weren't, all too understanding of what they had, or maybe they just were unsophisticated. Whatever the reason that people went off market, it was never my model. So I don't really know what drove people to off market real estate opportunities. I've always worked with agents and referrals and wholesalers and on market deals. But right now, if a seller has looking at the market as it is, interest rates are high, demand is plummeted, but you have to sell. You have to, for whatever the life reason is.
Right.
Relocation, health, a death, whatever it is. You will take what a willing buyer will give you right now. And if that's half, it's half. And that's the piece right now that I think if you're in real estate, you've got to be looking at these opportunities online. You've got to be going to the MLS and saying, if something's sitting here 30, 60, 90 days on market, first of all, why? Second of all, are they really motivated? Let's look at the listing history and see if there's been dramatic price drops. Let's look at the language in the listing and see, is the agent showing us any signs of motivation in the description? And then have a conversation with the person, find alignment with the realtor, and shoot your shot.
Yeah. I think so many people get caught up in the narrative that, oh, things are crashing, I can't make money. And it's like, no, dude. No. In real estate, you can always get a deal. It's not like crypto or stocks where you don't really get a deal. I don't get a better deal than you. We're both looking at the price today and we can choose whether or not we want to buy it.
Right.
So you got to be really good at timing it if that's what you're going to do. Or you're just saying, hey, I'm a long-term holder. I believe Apple and Netflix are going to be fine for the long haul, which you're probably right. But today, you're not getting any kind of better deal than someone else.
No, you can't call Netflix and say, hey, listen, I'll give you half.
I'll give you half for your stock price.
Right? That doesn't happen because you're not dealing with emotions. You're dealing with publicly traded companies. You're dealing with shareholders. You're dealing with all of the regulations and all of the things that keep it standardized and level for everybody. We're in real estate. Your tongue will get you places.
Yeah.
And how you speak.
Well, and you can just go hunt for whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's deals everywhere.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, for me anyways, they're like, are you going to still buy real estate? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter what's happening. It's just my buy box changes.
Right.
Right. So yeah, the last couple of years, I was willing to buy very thin because I knew prices were going up. I knew it was going to be good. Today, I don't know where prices are going to go, right? They could flatline. They could stop. I mean, they could reverse interest rates tomorrow and, we could go back up. I don't know. But I do know I can get way better deals today than I could, 6 months ago.
Right. I mean, I've seen some pricing and some sellers accept pricing that reminds me of 2016, 2017 numbers. And I mean, you ask anybody in real estate if one thing that they wish they had is a time machine.
Yeah.
A recession, an engineered stall is what I think this really is in the real estate game.
Right.
But an engineered stall, this is your time machine. Yo, get in the DeLorean and go get your deal because you won't find numbers like this again.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, once they start lowering rates again at some point and, all of this passes through, it's just going to do what it's always done.
Right. And look at the other part, right? So what does a crash require? It's just a fundamental bottoming out where everyone's just like, F it, I'm out. We're done. What we saw in the real estate market in 2008 was exactly that. We saw a lot of fraud. We saw a lot of people just who shouldn't have owned 8 houses owning 8 houses, right? And so when that happens, of course, you're going to get a massive inventory spike. You're going to get all of this elasticity and people aren't sure of what's happening. And then, you get defaults, you get people walking away. But looking at just, for instance, the microcosm of Phoenix, Arizona, okay? 2008, when the market crashed, we had near 70,000 listings on the MLS. Today, we have 18,000.
It's crazy.
And it was 20,000 last month. So we're trending down, right? So when you think about that, and this is a tough market, when the market doesn't have the inventory that is going to create a crash, it can't happen.
It's literally impossible.
It's literally impossible.
Yeah.
So all the folks that have the fear, I think what they're doing is they're truly buying into inaction. And what they want to do is they want to have a reason to sit still again.
Well, people want to make basically indecision seem like, oh, I'm just smart.
Yeah.
When it's like, no, you're just scared.
Yeah, you're making indecision a decision.
We're both on the same page with real estate.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not going to shut our businesses down because things are slow now. It's just like, hey, this is the time to reset what you're doing. Like for us, we don't wholesale exclusively. So we got flips that we bought that are going to be bad deals. And it just is what it is. Like, the last 2 years, we bought a lot of flips that ended up being okay deals into amazing deals, right? So
you built cushion then.
Yeah, you can't just have only good.
Right. You're a baseball player. You can't bat 1,000.
Yeah, you can't bat 1,000, and you can't just get a bunch of lucky hits that we've been getting over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you're gonna strike out. It's gonna happen.
Or worse, not even worse, but you're going to hit it freaking perfect and a guy's going to just make a great play and there's nothing you can do.
Right.
So I can tell you wholesaling is a great thing whether you are the one wholesaling the property or you're the one buying it from a wholesaler. But the real question is, how do you go about making these wholesale fees and putting these deals together? Well, there's really only 2 things to worry about. The first is, how do you find the deal? And the second is, how do you find the buyer? Remember, unlike wholesaling, you don't need to raise money or do construction, so don't worry about having to find contractors or lenders. So first off, when it comes to getting deals, there are 3 typical ways that you can do this. Either off the MLS, buying from other wholesalers, or going direct to seller. So if you don't know, the MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service, but you might just know it as a normal property that's on the market. So if you go to Zillow or Realtor.com or Redfin or any of these sites, they are just pulling their data from the MLS and showing you what's on the website. Now, if you're just looking at what's available, it's gonna be very difficult to find out what's a deal because there are so many different houses to look through. But there's actually a simple method that I use that has allowed me to get many deals over the years, and it's called auto searches. Basically, you can set up these auto searches to notify you every time a good deal pops up. Because here's the truth about the MLS. Anytime a good deal pops up, you can almost guarantee that it will be gone in less than a day. And that makes sense, right? If there's a house that's listed for $100,000 and you think it's worth $150,000, everybody else probably sees that too, and they're gonna try and get that deal. So when it comes to the MLS, speed is the name of the game, and so you wanna be notified every time these deals hit the market. And so you have to set up auto searches to notify you when this happens. Now there are a bunch of different auto searches that you can set up, but I'm not gonna talk about them in this video. And that's because you can actually download my book, Flip Your Future, completely for free by going to ryanpineda.com. If you just submit your email, you'll get my book as well as my house flipping contract so you can start getting deals today. And in that book, it will explain all the different auto searches and how exactly to set them up. But that's the main way we get deals on the MLS. Another way is through networking with realtors. I get a lot of deals from realtors because they know who I am, I've networked with them over the years, and anytime they get a listing coming up, they will send me the deal before they list it. And the reason that they do that is because they know that I'll buy it and they get to make twice the commission. So it's a win-win for everybody because the seller sells it quick, the agent makes 2 commissions, and I get a deal. Now, another way to get deals is through other wholesalers. Now, as I said before, I fix and flip more than I wholesale. So by me networking with other wholesalers, they know I'm an end buyer and I can buy their deals. But you can also be a wholesaler and help other wholesalers sell their deals to end buyers. So think about this. Maybe you know who I am and a wholesaler doesn't. Well, we know that wouldn't happen, hopefully, because everyone should have seen this YouTube video. But assuming that that happened, you have an end buyer that this wholesaler doesn't. And let's just say this wholesaler has the house under contract for $100,000, but they cannot sell it because they have no buyers. Well, you know that I'll pay $120,000 for it because I'm trying to buy everything I can. And so you go to that wholesaler and say, hey, look, I've got an end buyer. I think he'll pay $120,000. For me bringing him, let's just split the wholesale fee. The other wholesaler agrees, and now you're gonna make $10,000 and they're gonna make $10,000. And for you, you didn't have to find the deal because they were the ones who found it. All you did was find a buyer. And this happens a lot more often than you would think. I've had people who've brought me a deal that have had multiple wholesalers on it. We have also had wholesalers find us a buyer, and we've structured it in multiple ways. We've done it where we split the wholesale fee 50-50. We've also done it where we said, hey, we need $110,000 for this property. Anything else you get above 110, you get to keep. So sometimes that wholesaler could have made less than us, or they might have made more than us because they got it significantly above the 110. But either way, you want to network with other wholesalers because they can be a source of deals for you if you have buyers, or vice versa. Maybe you have a deal, but you can't find a buyer for it, so another wholesaler will help you find a buyer. Just remember, other wholesalers aren't your competition. You should be collaborating with them so that you can do more deals. The last way to find deals is through direct-to-seller marketing. Just to name a few, you could do direct mail, you could do text messaging, cold calling, pay-per-click, the list goes on and on. If you've got a really big budget, you could be like me and run TV commercials. Now, most people watching this video who are just getting started are not gonna be spending $30,000 a month running TV commercials. Probably gonna go for some inexpensive ways to go directly to sellers. The best way to go direct to seller on the cheapest budget is by using a software called Batch Leads. If you go to batchleads.io/homerun, you can get 500 text messages for just $1. On top of that, you can test out their software, which has a ton of different cool features to comp out properties and help you see what they're worth, to see what is owed on the property, what kind of mortgages, to see if people are in foreclosure, and to run a whole different bunch of types of lists. I think Batch Leads is great because not only do you get access to all that data, but it's really affordable. And basically what you would do is pick the data that you want to get and then market to them. So maybe you pull a list of pre-foreclosure homes. Through Batch Leads, you can go and get their phone numbers, and then you can do multiple things. You could text message those sellers, you could cold call those sellers, or you could even send them direct mail. And all of those things can be done through Batch's platform. So it makes it very easy and an all-in-one solution. Now, obviously with direct-to-seller marketing, there's a whole bunch that goes into it. You gotta think about what list you wanna pull, what marketing you wanna use. How is your sales process gonna be? Are you gonna be following up? Are you trying to go on appointments? You trying to close them over the phone? Those things are gonna take time for you to learn. But in time, you can for sure lock up a deal and make a lot of money wholesaling. Just make sure that before you start doing direct-to-seller marketing, you have the contracts that you downloaded from ryanpineda.com so you can actually lock them up and go into escrow. But those are the three main ways that we find deals, and I highly suggest using those ways if you're just getting started wholesaling. Now, assuming that you find a deal, you've got to figure out how to find the buyer for that deal. Now, there are many different ways to do this, but there are a few easy ones. The first is to just go on Facebook groups. I would search real estate investing, I would search wholesaling real estate, I would search house flipping, and just join every single group that you can. You can do this both nationwide and locally. And in these groups, go to the search bar and search your local market. So for me, I would search Las Vegas and see all the posts made about Las Vegas. From there, somebody has probably already posted a deal before, somebody has already posted about getting a buyer's list built up. Just go through all the comments and start taking all that data that people have already posted. You can also go to all those people and send them direct messages and ask them what their buying criteria is. I think just from doing that by itself, you will have more than enough buyers once you find a deal. Another way to do this is by going to your local RIA. So RIA stands for Real Estate Investing Association. They're an actual organization that's in almost every city. But you can also join other meetup groups that aren't with the RIA organization. I used to run one for Future Flipper here in Las Vegas. I've seen other people start their own and brand them as such. So just join every single local real estate investing group that you can find and start going to the meetings. More than likely, you're gonna find some end buyers there, but you're also gonna be able to network with other wholesalers as well. And as we talked about before, other wholesalers can be a great source of deals or a great source of buyers for your deals. Now, one thing that I mentioned earlier is that for buyers, a lot of the people we've been selling to lately are hedge funds. My company, as well as many of our students at Future Flipper, have been making far more by selling to them over other buyers. Mainly because these hedge funds are paying market value for homes. Typically, when you sell to a flipper, they're gonna want a discount because they've got to go flip the property and make money. But that's not the case with these hedge funds. Many of them are just buying the properties to hold them as rentals. And they're looking at it from the 5 to 10 year perspective. So even if they pay market value today, if they get the right property that they feel good about for appreciation, they know they're gonna win in the long run and they don't really care. And so for us as wholesalers, it's way better to go to those hedge funds and sell them deals. And this is why I say that things are changing drastically from where they were a year or even 2 years ago. All the low interest rates and with the housing demand that there is today, hedge funds are buying now more than ever. And unfortunately, they're not the ones sitting on the Facebook groups. It takes a lot of extra work to find these guys, but if you do, then you're able to pay a lot more for properties because you know that they're willing to pay top dollar. And honestly, one of the best ways to find hedge funds is to get around other people in your market who are doing this at a high level. Most likely, they're already selling to the hedge funds because they've figured it out, and all you gotta do is get in with them and they'll give you those contacts.
Now, if you're gonna start wholesaling, there's really just 2 things you need to do. Number 1, find a good deal. Number 2, find a buyer for that deal. It's that simple. So first, let's go over how you find deals. There are really 3 ways to do it. Number 1 is the MLS, number 2 is other wholesalers, number 3 is direct to seller marketing. Now here's what I'll say. When it comes to the MLS and you're just getting started on wholesaling, I would not do it. Trying to wholesale MLS deals is not something that I think a beginner should really try and do. I have seen people do it, but it's just tougher when there's an agent involved. So I'm not gonna talk too much about MLS deals in this video. And especially right now in today's market, the MLS has record low inventory, so it's even harder to get MLS deals today than it was previously. So we're gonna ignore the MLS right now. Second option I mentioned is other wholesalers. So as I mentioned before, the wholesaler typically would assign it to an end buyer. The end buyer would be the one paying that full amount, and that's how everyone gets paid. But sometimes a wholesaler will assign it to another wholesaler who then assigns it to their end buyer. And what this is called is daisy chaining. Now, early on in my career, when I got started, I used to hate daisy chainers because I would get a deal sent to me from a wholesaler and then I would see somebody else daisy chain it to me for a higher price and they didn't even control the deal. The person who controls the deal is the one who originally got the deal. Now, even though I got really mad at daisy chainers early on, after I had bought a bunch of deals from people who had daisy chained them, I started to be okay with it. At the end of the day, people gotta make a living, and if I'm gonna still get what I want out of it, it's good. And in fact, my company has daisy chain deals for other wholesalers as well. And the reason for that is we have a bigger buyers list. So sometimes wholesalers can't move their deals, they send it to us, and we'll go wholesale it for them. And how we negotiate that varies. Sometimes we'll just split the wholesale fee. Sometimes a wholesaler will say, hey, I want $140,000 for this deal. Whatever you can sell it for above that is your profit. Either way, if I can make money on a deal, I'm down with it. Even if I have to daisy chain, or the more proper way to say it is co-wholesale a deal with somebody else. So yeah, other wholesalers can be a great resource for you, and you don't even have to buy it from them. You can go wholesale it to somebody else if you've got a buyer willing to pay more than you. Now, with all that being said, be transparent with the wholesaler. If you're not gonna be the one buying it, let them know that, hey, I'm not buying it. I actually plan to assign it again to somebody else, but I can guarantee you that these guys are gonna buy. Transparency is always key in any deal. So that would be how you could get deals from other wholesalers. But the biggest way that we get deals to wholesale is through direct to seller marketing. Now, these are different marketing channels we use to get in touch with sellers. Some examples of this would be cold calling, texting, PPC, TV commercials, direct mail, driving for dollars, the list goes on and on. You can find deals in so many different ways. And there are 2 big things I tell my students when it comes to direct to seller marketing. Number one, marketing is a whole business in itself. If you've got a fix and flip operation where you're doing renovations and you're doing all this other stuff with flipping the home, that is totally separate from the marketing side, which I'm talking about now. You've got to have a good sales team. You got to have good follow-up process. You got to be able to talk to sellers because you can't get a deal if you don't talk to them. So a lot more sales is involved on the marketing side. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not a very good salesperson, Ryan. How am I supposed to do this? Well, I think you could become a good one with practice and training, but on top of that, you could also partner with somebody who is. So don't let the fear of not being able to talk to a seller or inexperience stop you. You can get started today. But the second thing I'll say about direct-to-seller marketing is you need to understand your budget. If you're just getting started and you can't afford to spend money on marketing, you're gonna have to do different things than my company would. My company usually spends anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a month to get some really good deals. But a lot of my students get deals without spending any money. Some of them are spending $1,000 to $5,000 and having great success. If you could spend $5,000 a month and make $30,000 a month from the $5,000, would you do it? I can tell you I would. Anytime I could spend $5,000 and get 6x return, it's a big win in my book. So you gotta understand your budget when you're gonna do direct-to-seller marketing. And my guess is, if you're watching this video, your budget would be really small. So you're gonna do marketing tactics that fit that budget. Some very cheap forms of marketing are cold calling and texting. You could actually cold call yourself. So instead of spending all this money to hire cold callers, you are gonna be the one cold calling and using your time instead. Texting is another one. Texting is really cheap to do, so I highly recommend it. But if you're gonna cold call or text, you need to have the right software in place. You don't want to just do it straight from your phone. It's inefficient and you could possibly get into legal trouble if you do it wrong. The software that I always recommend is Batch Leads. With Batch Leads, you can pull motivated seller list and then text them directly from the software. And then you could take those same phone numbers and get their other product called Batch Dialer. And with Batch Dialer, you can cold call all of those phone numbers all at once without having to manually dial everything, and you're gonna get a hold of way more sellers. And they actually have a third product called Batch Driven that is great if you're on a budget. With Batch Driven, you can do driving for dollars. Driving for dollars is essentially going through neighborhoods and picking out the houses that look like they need repairs, they're not in good shape, and Batch Driven will write down all those houses for you in the mobile app, and then you can get those same phone numbers and cold call them and text them with the other softwares. All of the Batch products are really good, and they're very cost affordable for those just starting out. And for that reason, it's why it's the only real estate software I currently promote, because it's cost efficient and everything is all in one. And make sure you use the links that I'm putting down below because they give you special promos. With batchleads.io/homerun, you'll get half off your first month. With batchdriven.com/homerun, you're gonna get a 7-day free trial. And with batchdialer.com/homerun, you're also gonna get a 7-day free trial. As I said, if you're on a budget, those are as good as it gets for reaching sellers directly. Now, once you figure out how to get deals, whether it's from other wholesalers, whether it's direct-to-seller marketing, you got to figure out how to get buyers. Now, finding cash buyers is actually pretty easy. In today's market, selling deals isn't very hard because the market is so hot. But some of the best ways that I find buyers are by going on Facebook groups. So I'll search wholesale real estate investing, and I'll join all of those groups, both national and local. And I'll search for my city where I'm doing deals and figure out who are the people posting in those groups. And there's probably other posts where people were putting out their deals and people were commenting if they were buyers or not. But you can also just post in those groups and say, hey, I'm a new wholesaler in this city. If you want to be on my buyers list, comment below with your email and your phone number. You will literally have a buyers list like that. Now, that's a super easy method, and honestly, you will sell a good deal just by doing that. But two other ways you could do it are by, number one, going to meetups. If you go to meetup.com, you can find all the different meetups in your area for real estate investing, and some of those people will be doing deals. Second way is through Batch Leads that we were talking about before. They have a little search filter for cash buyers. You can pull the search of everyone who's buying multiple deals every year. And if they're buying multiple deals, that means that they're a cash buyer and an investor who will probably want to buy more deals from you. But as I said, finding the cash buyer is actually the easiest part of this process. And really, that's all it takes to become a wholesaler. Find good deals, find buyers, merge them together. You don't have to buy the home or anything, get paid right away.
Jerry has been doing a ton of stuff with real estate. You know, he's done all of the single family flips, the wholesales. He now has all of these spec builds and luxury flips going on. But the thing that I want to talk about today that's super cool is your virtual flipping program and what you're doing. So Tell me a little bit about what you're doing on the virtual flipping and wholesaling side.
Yeah, well, this idea of doing any kind of business virtual with with COVID recently and the pandemic, it's kind of blown up. It's now mainstream. It's normal. People Zoom. People do conferencing. And it used to be kind of like this thing that we did if we had to do it, but we'd much rather be in person. We'd much rather have employees come to offices, right? And so it's kind of this really trendy, hot idea here, and it's awesome. I've been doing my business virtual for about 7-8 years before it was even a thing, right? Like no one even heard of, what do you mean virtual flipping? What the heck is that? Now it's like kind of a mainstream normal thing,
right?
Which is kind of exciting to think that you can live and work anywhere and do business.
Yeah.
And flip houses. Like that's kind of a cool idea.
Right. So if you guys are a part of Flip Nation, you guys know we love side hustles. We love, couch flipping, and I've done my Amazon store I just started for fun to see how that virtual business goes. But one thing I know for sure works is virtual wholesaling. Like we have done it ourselves. I've wholesaled properties in Arizona where we're at today. Never seen them. A lot of houses that we virtually flip in Cali, we never see. And so I know it works. My question to you is, how have you scaled it into multiple markets the way you have?
Yeah, so it's been a transition, right? It's a tricky thing to do because there's something about the nuances of a market you don't really know that well, right? So there's kind of this layer of, I understand my backyard geographically because I live here, so I kind of know where the good schools are, I know the good neighborhoods. Even people that aren't real estate people, they just naturally know that because you live there. Whereas you now plop yourself in somewhere you've never really, lived or know much about, and it creates kind of this idea, this nuance of, well, I don't know where the good streets are, I don't know the good neighborhoods, so there's a learning curve there. Having done so many of them though, I've now kind of figured out what things to look for, what to identify, how do I know what values really are if I look at a deal in a place I've never done a deal before, and start to kind of learn how to do that. So there is a transition to do that, but when you figure that out, it just opens up a lot of doors.
Yeah, the big fear for me with virtual flipping is that, number one, we don't know the market like you said. Like an ARV to us, the way we're looking at it may be different in real life. Like they know that, hey, across the street where your house is, totally different. Yeah. But two is, we know that renovation costs vary so wildly state to state. Like here in Phoenix and Vegas, where things are newer and stucco, we're pretty cheap compared to the rest of the country. And then you go out east where it's cold, it's like, we have to tear down the whole house? Like, this is crazy.
It needs a new roof? Why?
Yeah, like it's fine. And so I think you've mastered that, which is super cool. And you actually got a program where people can like submit deals to you and you'll buy them. What is that?
Yeah, so it's a finder program. So if you don't know real estate much, you mentioned wholesaling. Some people that maybe aren't really super familiar that maybe watch your channel, I'm sure most of them kind of are. Yeah. But it's this idea of finding a good deal and then taking that deal to somebody else who then buys it, funds it, flips it, or rents it, or whatever they do with it. And you're just a finder in the deal. So you find that good deal and get paid for it. And what's amazing, like I've seen some of your videos like couch flipping, or guys, I mean, me and my boys, we flip luxury watches for fun, or we flip iPhones for fun.
Yeah.
And houses though is like, you can flip a car, make $1,000, right? Houses though, you can make $10,000 flipping a house.
Yeah.
Find a deal, take it to someone who wants it, and make $10,000. So it's just a really fun kind of finder type of strategy.
Well, and the thing is too, with the couches or even the watches, you got a Rolex on right now, right? So you got to buy that to flip it. With wholesaling, you don't have to buy anything. It's one of the craziest things I've seen. Like half the time I think this should be illegal, and then half the time I'm like, but it isn't.
How can this be? Yeah, it's the paper, right? So that contract is equitable interest. You get a contract, the seller agrees on a price, it's signed, it's now a binding agreement,
right?
And now that piece of paper is what you're flipping to that flipper, right?
It'd be the equivalent of me, like, I don't have your Rolex yet, but like, hey, I got the paper to the Rolex. Can I flip this?
With an agreed price.
Exactly.
Yeah, so basically get the Rolex for $5, the agreement to buy it for $5, take that agreement to someone who wants it for $6.
Yep, and then go get the 6, take your Rolex, and then boom, everyone's happy.
So it's a no money out thing. And what I love about it is people are watching right now, Ryan, and they're looking for that side hustle. They're on your channel watching your side hustle videos. Yep. Everyone's, I mean, why would you not be? You wouldn't be here if you weren't probably interested in additional income.
Right.
Maybe it can turn into a real thing, a full-time thing like you've done with flipping, like I've done with flipping. But man, there's nothing better than going out and finding a deal. I'll show you how. I'll give you software and tools and training on how to go find a deal in your backyard. Yeah. If it qualifies, I'll pay $10,000 for it because I have capital and resources and systems in place to do it anywhere.
Yeah, and I love that offer. When you told me about it, I was like, that's genius, because I get people who send me deals all the time in other markets, and I just don't have the capacity. Yeah. Like, I don't want to research it, and I'm sure they could be great deals, but it's just my time and my effort. I don't want to do it. But with Jerry's program, when he told me about it, I was like, dude, for people to be able to go make $10,000 for finding a deal, and he's going to do all that for them and flip them, like, it's a no-brainer to me. So if you guys are interested in that program, I'm gonna link to it down below. It's super easy to go through. He'll do a quick webinar about what it is. And then if you wanna be in it, like he said, $10,000 if you send him a good deal. That's it.
Deal.
Every deal. Like, that is an amazing side hustle. Now, all that being said, I do believe that, you know, if you're hunting deals, you definitely need to get into real estate yourself as well. Yeah. Using Jerry's program is going to be amazing, and it's going to be a great way to start, create some quick capital, but I always want you guys to start figuring out how you can invest in real estate on your own. And one thing I always say with the side hustles, and couch flipping did this for me, is that, you know, that quick capital is what propelled me to get more deals. And so if finding him a deal gives you that capital and helps you get into the next deal, dude, win-win. I'm sure it's happened many times.
I mean, guys, if you find that amazing deal, what's great about that idea of a finder, you know, tying into a cash buyer like me or any other cash buyer, do a handful of those deals, build up some capital. Maybe then you can quit that job you don't like and go focus on it more full time. Yep. Maybe that can fund your next rental. I mean, who knows, right? But it creates that income, and when you can create income through a side hustle, it just opens up so many opportunities. Yeah. It's just life-changing.
I love it. All right, so I totally agree. The side hustles are amazing, and that's a great way to start. But what would somebody do who's never found a deal or done a deal? Like, what would they even be looking for?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, you just have to know that there are deals all around you in your backyard, right under your nose. Most people kind of know that. Some people are like, I don't know if there's any deals. There are all kinds of deals. So what's great about my Finder program is we actually give you some software and tools that will allow you to then find where those good deals are. So it's really awesome. You implement it. I mean, obviously, like anything, you got to put in some effort and some work, right? But if you're willing to turn off Netflix, go hustle, go chase it, there's deals, and you can get that good deal. And what's amazing is you don't have to fund it. You don't have to come up with the money to buy it. You don't have to rehab them. You don't have to even know a buyer. You've got a buyer. I'll buy it. Right? So you just understand a few things, how to go find it, get it, and then you can get that $10,000 check by doing that. So there's no reason why someone who's never even done real estate, maybe you've never even bought your own home, that's totally fine. You can figure it out and do it.
Yeah. So I'm looking at your board here in your office, and you know, I'm seeing some different states and everything. Like, what states are you in right now? Like,
oh man, we're all over. I'll tell you one of our recent deals in New Orleans.
Okay.
What was so cool is the finder that found that deal, get this, Ryan, we actually did an interview video here on the channel with him. He came out and we talked about his deal.
We'll link to that down below too.
Yeah, it's a cool video because it's his first deal. And I didn't know this, but we were talking afterwards, and I said, so what are you doing? You know, what's your main thing? Like, what do you mostly do? Young guy in his 20s, he says, oh, I work at Dairy Queen. Yeah. And it was like, I didn't realize how life-changing for him a $10,000 check was.
I mean, dude, that's like right? 3-4 months of pay.
And we're looking at another deal now because that was like, okay, this is a real thing now for him. It's a real thing now.
Right.
It's changing for him from this quick side hustle to, if I did this once a month.
Yeah.
And I was working at Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Like, right?
You know, honestly, that was the revelation I had with flipping couches. So a lot of people don't know this, but before I was flipping couches, I actually was a substitute teacher, and I was making $100 a day, and I wasn't one for very long because I was the worst teacher ever. I teach real estate much better than I teach
math.
You know, math, and just sitting there chilling, like, you know, taking roll. But anyway, so I remember sitting there, and I was making $100 a day. And I was like, this is pretty good for just sitting here, right? Like, this is not a bad gig. I was 23, 24. But I started thinking about it because I just furnished our entire house with furniture much less nice than this. And
I just remember thinking, man, I bet you I could flip something for like 200 bucks. And so I did. I ended up flipping a couch and made 200 bucks. It took me like an hour. I was like, wow, I just made $200 in an hour versus sitting in this classroom for 7 hours to make 100. And
Yeah,
I
leverage,
had
right?
Leverage. And I had the same revelation with flipping. I'm like, wow, like this flip took way less and I made $20,000. And so when I think about the Dairy Queen kid, it's like, man, he worked so hard at Dairy, like, dude, and he always worked fast food. That is a hard job for like no pay. And you work that long and then boom, you made $10,000 like that. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, and that's why, Ryan, I love that you talk so much about the side hustle, because right now the biggest limitation people have is they've got bills, they've got family, they've got obligations. So anytime you transition out of that W-2 income that you need to pay your bills into your own thing,
right?
There's that period of time where it's the hardest time, because you have to now do it before work, after work, on your lunch break, on weekends.
Yeah.
And that's tough. You got to make big sacrifices. But what's amazing is I was able to go from dead broke, going nowhere, paycheck to paycheck, start with a side hustle and transition it into a real thing.
Yeah.
And everyone's got to go through that. Most people do, because most people don't get everything handed to them, right?
No.
And so where do you go? You start with a side hustle.
Yeah. And I think almost every entrepreneur started a side hustle at some point, and it may even became their main hustle business because it was so successful. For me, flipping started that way as well. It was just, hey, if I could flip a house here, flip a house there, like that's a good living.
Yeah.
And you just never know what it can turn into. And I think when you told me about this program, I was just like, dude, my students, my viewers, everyone's got to know about this, because I wish I could provide something like that, but I just can't. It's too much out of my realm. But to see you doing it for people in New Orleans, people in Phoenix, people in, guys.
Belton, Missouri.
Yeah.
I think we've got one right now.
Missouri.
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing program. Don't do it if you're in Vegas, though. Just send me those deals. Those I'll do with you in Vegas.
Ryan, it was so funny. I did a video on Vegas, a Vegas deal, and I got a comment from you. You're like, Jerry, bring me all your Vegas deals.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, if you got a deal in Vegas, just send it to me. Yeah. We'll do it. I'll give you a better deal than 10,000. Like, we'll go through it. But, everything else outside of Vegas, dude, use the Finder program.
We'll do that. I'll let you have the Vegas.
Perfect.
I actually see this question a lot in my comments on my TikToks. They say, how do you choose whether to flip or to rent? That's a great question, because most people don't even consider it. Most real estate investors you talk to have one exit strategy. They're either buy and hold and they keep everything as a rental, or either they're flippers and they only flip everything, or they're a wholesaler and they only wholesale everything. But to me, that is the wrong way to run your business. In my business, we do over 100+ deals a year, and it combines all three of those. We keep rentals, we flip, we wholesale, we do it all. And if you want to throw listings into that, that is the fourth category we use as well for all the deals where the sellers don't want to take a discount and they want market value, so we just go send them off to the listing team. But with the hybrid model that we run, it allows us to maximize every single deal for whatever is best for the deal. For us as real estate investors, we're not really looking to list homes. We want to buy homes at a discount. But if a seller does not want to give a discount, we might as well at least make something on it, so we refer out those listings. For this video, I'm not going to talk about listings. I'm going to keep it to the investing side, which is rentals, flips, and wholesales. So anytime my team locks up a deal, I get an email that says street address and new deal. In that email, it will tell me the purchase price, it'll tell me the estimated rehab cost, it'll tell me my ARV. For those of you who don't know, is the after repair value, what we think we're going to sell it for once we fix it up. And with that information, I can determine what the exit strategy is going to be. We can run it through our deal calculator, which you can get at my online course. You can get that at the link below. And that'll tell me exactly what I think my flip profit is gonna be. Let's just say in this example, we run it through and it says that the flip profit is $30,000. The next thing we're gonna do is see how much we can wholesale it for. So anytime we get a deal in-house, meaning from our own marketing channels or even the MLS, we will then blast it out to our buyers list. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to wholesale it since we blasted it out. It just gives us an idea of what people are willing to pay for it and what a potential wholesale fee could be. Now, let's just say we blast it out and all of a sudden someone is willing to pay us $20,000 as an assignment fee. Now, when I look at that, I say, well, I can make $20,000 right now with no risk, cash in my pocket,
Or I can go through the headache of flipping it, and in 4 to 5 months, I'll make $30,000. Maybe, because we all know flips don't always go as planned. In that scenario, I would much rather take the wholesale fee than go ahead and flip it. And I actually developed a rule for this, and I just call it the 2-to-1 rule. If the flip does not make at least 2 times the wholesale fee, then we are going to wholesale it. So in the scenario I just gave you, the wholesale fee would have been 20 grand, the flip would have been 30 grand. The flip is therefore 1.5 times the wholesale fee. So it makes more sense to wholesale it. Now, let's just say in the same scenario, the flip was going to be $50,000 and the wholesale fee is $20,000. For us, that means the flip is now 2.5 times the wholesale fee. In that scenario, we are going to buy it, we are going to flip it. It's worth it for us. And that's just something we use internally with where our business currently is at. You don't have to do that because you might need that $20,000 right now to keep your business going. For us, we don't. We can wait and go make the extra 30 grand. But when the wholesale fee is so close to the flip profit, it just doesn't make sense to take the risk to flip it and to wait to get paid. We would much rather just take the certain money. And you might be asking yourself, why would the wholesale fee be so close to the flip amount? That doesn't make any sense. But once again, you don't know the other person's exit strategy. They may not be trying to flip it. They may want to live in it. They may want to rent it out. You just don't know what somebody's exit strategy could be. So don't think that they're just buying a bad deal with no meat on the bone. They just might see the deal differently than you. They could have different costs than you. Maybe they're buying it all cash, whereas you were using financing that you had to pay for. Maybe they're fixing the home themselves, and so their labor is way less than your labor. Or lastly, maybe they just see the deal completely different from you. Maybe you think you're gonna sell it for $300,000 and they think they're gonna sell it for $350,000. Everyone has a different opinion on every single deal. I learned to stop criticizing how people analyze deals a long time ago. I remember I'd be bidding against other people for the same property and they would pay way more than me, and I'd be like, that person is so stupid, what are they thinking? And over time I realized they're not stupid. Well, I take that back. Some of them are pretty stupid, and some of them probably lost a lot of money overpaying. But some of them were right. They saw the ARV differently and made money. Or they kept it as a rental and it didn't matter. Or like I said, they bought it cash or did their own construction and it still made sense for them. So never judge what somebody is willing to pay for a property because you don't know how they see it. Now, back to the basics. As I said, as long as the flip makes at least 2-to-1 from the wholesale fee, we'll flip it. If it's less than 2-to-1, we will wholesale it. That's pretty much how we determine whether to flip or wholesale. But we still have this third strategy, which is the rental strategy. Now, with rentals, it is going to be very market dependent on whether this is even a strategy or not. I will tell you, in Vegas, where I'm at, rental is not even ever on my mind. And the reason for that is we just don't have good cap rates. We have very bad cash flow. The decision that I usually face is, do I want to make 25 grand on a flip, or do I want to make negative $200 a month if I keep it as a rental? Well, obviously I'm not going to keep it as a rental. That makes absolutely no sense, right? And so almost always we don't even need to run it through the rental filter in Las Vegas. And it's that same way in many other major metros. I know in California, the properties are so expensive, it's almost impossible to get cash flow, right? So usually you're only deciding between flipping it and wholesaling it. But when you are in the Midwest, things are a lot different. When you can go buy a property for $50,000 that rents for $1,000 a month, it's tough to decide not to rent that out because the cash flow is so good. When you're faced with saying, hey, I can make $15,000 on a flip, or I can make $400 a month pure cash flow after everything, and assuming that you're able to get the rental financing and possibly BRRRR out of it, which if you don't know what BRRRR is, I'll have to do another video on that. If you want me to do a video on that, make sure you comment below. But assuming that you can get financing on the rental, in that case, it's like, you might as well keep it as a rental. Making 15 grand a month isn't gonna be as good as making $400 to $500 a month cash flow. So people in the Midwest have that choice. I'll give you another example. My property's in Big Bear. I've done videos on Airbnb and my property's in Big Bear, and they crush it with cash flow. And I have to ask myself every time I acquire a Big Bear property, whether I want to flip it, wholesale it, or keep it as a rental. And almost always we keep it as a rental because we make so much on Airbnb. We're talking about properties that were all in for say $250,000.
and they can gross $4,000 to $5,000 a month on average on Airbnb. That's almost impossible to beat as far as a flip goes. I would much rather make that $4,000 to $5,000 gross, which can net me anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month, over making 20K on a flip. I'll take that all day, right? And the other thing to consider too is in places like California, you have the state income tax when you flip a property. So I have to pay around a 10% tax on top of my profit. So it almost always makes sense for me to keep my Airbnbs in Big Bear. In the other market we're in, Tucson, it kind of becomes a coin flip. There are properties that we can be all in for at around $120,000, and they might rent for $1,200. We would call that the 1% rule. Basically, the monthly rent is 1% of the all-in amount. Now, the cash flow on something like that isn't gonna be crazy. It might only be $200 to $300 a month. But for a property in the West Coast, in a good city, in something that might appreciate, it's not a bad play to keep it. If it was between that and making, say, 15 grand on a flip, I would much rather keep it as a rental. But if I was gonna make, say, $50,000 on the flip, well, obviously I'm gonna go flip it. So in the end, it always comes down to all three options and what they're gonna make. And all three options are gonna vary on where your market's at and how good the deal is. It's that simple. In many markets today, rentals are not even an option. They just don't make sense, just like Vegas. Here's the funny thing, in Vegas, if I did get a deal that got good cash flow, I probably got it extremely undervalued, maybe 60% of market value. That's the only way it really is. But then, if you got a property discounted, you're talking about $50,000 to $100,000 profit on a flip. So even in that scenario, it still doesn't really make sense to keep it as a rental, even though it cash flows, because you're comparing it against flipping it and making 50 to 100 grand. And I would be hard pressed to ever keep something that I know I could just go flip right now and make $100,000. That's just me personally. So market's obviously gonna play a role. How good the deal is gonna play a role, but the last thing that plays a role is your money situation. If you cannot afford to flip it, and you have to wholesale it, then you really only have one option. Maybe you can't get long rental financing, so you can't even rent it if you want it. All you can do is flip or wholesale. Or maybe your business needs the capital this month, so all you can do is wholesale. Look, I get it, that's part of growing. A lot of people don't have all the options like we do. We're very blessed that we can do that. So you need to definitely look at your business and your situation. You can't just only think about how can I maximize this deal right now, because it may put you in a bad position for your business. You may need that money right now, so you have to wholesale it. You might be looking at making $10,000 on a wholesale, and if you flipped it, you might make 50, but if you don't wholesale it, you're not in business next month. So obviously you need to wholesale it. And then you need to aspire to get to the point where, yes, I have multiple options. I'm not forced into this one situation. And that's the big thing I teach in my coaching program that is very different than almost every other program I know, is that we teach all three exit strategies. Most coaches only teach one thing. They teach you how to either flip or how to own an all-around great investor. And you need to maximize every deal that comes through in order for you to be the most profitable short-term and in the long term. If you have a steady mix of flipping houses, wholesaling houses, and buying rentals, you're gonna go far, I can promise you. So for those of you who are wondering whether you should rent or flip a property, I hope this video answered that question.
About just like in the last 3 years, like going after this method, like what are some things that you guys do? Like take me from start to finish.
Sure. So while I said like you're not looking for motivation, there are some specific strategies that you've got to target to find motivation on MLS. So there's keywords you could literally filter out. Like there's typically a public remarks and agent only remarks. You want to go in and filter out between both those sections what keywords could be, like motivated, as is, investor, TLC, handyman, fix up, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Next, there's categories like literally pre-foreclosure, probate, anything that will specify a motivating factor as to why the seller would need a cash offer quick. There's also going to be the one that I love right now is days on market. So as the market's transitioning a little bit, we were talking about before the show, but inventory is rising. So all that means is that buyers they have a little bit more of an ability to be pickier. So you have to really focus in on properties where you could get it a little bit steeper. And right now, the most motivating factor is days on market. So anything that's been sitting for 30 plus days, my team's writing an offer on it.
Right. So are they actually writing an offer on every single property, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we call the agents, we build the rapport with them, and then we turn around and we submit the offer ourselves, or if it's going to be too far of like numbers where we're offering, like typically our benchmark's like $35,000. If it's $35,000 or more under list price, then we'll have them represent us and have them just get the dual agency.
So you're saying if it's 35 grand or more, so it could be 50 grand, you'll have them do dual agent?
Correct. And if they won't, I mean, we'll go unrepresented so the seller nets more money, but the last resort at them would be us representing ourselves. What we were doing in the past is just writing a bunch of offers and submitting it with representing ourselves. But a lot of times what I found is the team wasn't always calling the agents, or we were calling them and they were like, just submit it. Well, all that does is take away the time from the transaction coordinator who's submitting 30 to 40 offers a day. That doesn't make sense. So we started just really honing in on building the relationship with the agents. And then what we found is that even if that wasn't that deal we got, the odds of them turning around and bringing us another one were actually pretty high. So that's how we started building the relationships.
So, I mean, okay, if you're going to do 100 deals this year, how many would you say are like brand new deals you found versus just relationships you've built?
So it's about 60-40. 60% are ones that are brought to us by agents. 40% are deals that we found.
Got it. Okay. So, but you know, to get to that 60%, you had to go find them all initially and get that repeat business.
That's it.
So pretty much most of that 60%, you know, represented you at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're like, okay, I'm going to make double commission. This is great.
Yep. And they have us saved as their favorite contact. I mean, the minute they get a listing or they go to an appointment and it's like a distressed house, they'll come and they'll reach out to us. And so then I started teaching them ways to where they can educate the people in their sphere as to how to bring them more opportunities. Do you have cleaners that go out to properties before a listing? Is it distressed and does the property need a lot of work? Does the photographer that goes out and take the listing photos, do they see the property needs a lot of work? Landscapers, pool people, family members, relatives, neighbors, anything along those lines that are just out of the box ideas to get more referrals back in for them, which come back to us.
Right. So, you know, you've been building up these relationships all these years. What, I guess, are the keys to getting deals? Like, okay, you know, I'm a guy who's starting from scratch and I don't have any agent relationships yet. Like, how would you go about with a brand new person?
I think a lot of it is being overly authentic. I don't think there's this sense of like coming in and like lying. I think a lot of like people that teach this come in and say like, you're the investor, you're the buyer, this, or that. You need to have the buying capability. But what I mean by that is you need to go in and just get a relationship with a hard money lender or working with someone like yourself that would say, hey, I'm going to back you in this transaction so you have the confidence going in as a buyer. But aside from that, when you call them, there's nothing wrong with telling them it's your first deal. There's nothing wrong with telling them how your process works. A lot of what we do and what we teach within agent investors is patience and education. Understanding when you're talking to these agents, patience is knowing that they probably aren't familiar with wholesaling and they're also not all that familiar with working with investors and how to make it a win-win. The educating side is understanding that while they don't know that stuff, how do you teach them? We tell all the agents about our wholesaling process. We tell them about what our process looks like from the minute we go under contract to the minute we close and how we do have the ability to wholesale and we might send it out on a list to just see what happens.
Right.
So I think it's overly setting expectations and being authentic.
So you'll say that before submitting the offer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, you know, I guess I'm curious, how many offers on the MLS end up working out? Like what's your guys' back out rate?
Yeah,
everything.
It's a great question. So our goal has always been five a day offers. Metrics, it's just easy for a guy like myself. I don't think I'm all that smart. 25 a week, 100 a month. Out of that, we were usually getting about like 14 to 16 under contract. When we first started doing this heavily, we were canceling on about like 6 to 7. So I mean, it was like a 50% like cancel rate. Now we're at the point where we're probably closing on about 10 to 12 of them, but we also walk away from earnest money. So if I don't get, if I'm not able to sell it, I'll walk from my EMD to save the relationship with the agent so that way they'll bring us more opportunities again.
So, I mean, as we transition into this new market, right? You know, a lot of people are calling for a recession and, you know, all this stuff. Like, what are you seeing on your side with the MLS? How's it changed things?
I actually think that this is of course I'm biased, but I think this is the best strategy to go after in the near future. Reason being is that if you could do MLS deals in a market where there was 2,000 to 4,000 active listings in Phoenix, now the only thing that's different is that there's 14,000 active listings as of a couple of days ago. So that means you have bigger opportunity to go and target. The only thing to be mindful of is that buyers are going to be a little bit pickier. So you really have to double down on knowing how to comp properties and knowing like how to underwrite them the proper way. So obviously backing up to main roads, 2-story versus 1-story, make sure your square footage is right, year built, anything along those lines, pool or no pool in Arizona. As long as you have like those things understood and like how to like go in and find the right deals. I mean, I would tell you right now, MLS is the way to be. Like, it's free marketing. I don't even think there's high risk with it. There's low risk, high reward. And I think if you were given that opportunity with anything in business, the alternative is that you're told, okay, well, now you've got to figure out in this market transitioning, do I pull back and take my foot off the gas on marketing while it's like pivoting, or do I go even crazier and full throttle down and let's go and double down on marketing? Right. And I have friends in Arizona that are doing both. Like I have friends that are taking their foot off the gas, not flipping as much anymore. And I have friends that are like, nope, let's go. Let's keep it going. 18 to 20 flips at a time. So I'd rather be the guy that's in the middle ground that's like, I can appeal to everybody.
Right.
Buyer over here, what are you looking for? Buyer that's being a little bit more safe, what are you looking for? Now I can just go find those opportunities and send it to them.
Yeah. I think right now we get about 40 to 50 flips going on. So we got a lot of deals. But it's interesting because, you know, I saw this play out 2 years ago with COVID. You know, everybody had a choice to make on what they wanted to do. And, you know, most people played scared. Yep. And obviously it turns out that it was the best time to buy, right? And so as I look at where things are at today, you know, I kind of see deja vu of, you know, inventory's rising, people are getting really scared again, you know, and a lot of people are not wanting to do anything. But this time around, I would say there are less people than before that are like I think there's still a lot of buyers compared to COVID when there was like none.
Right.
So, you know, I'm looking at it as an investor and just kind of deciding what's best for me at this point in my life. And I think we're in a mix right now where I am trying to kind of not buy as much. I want to wholesale, but I'm not ramping down my marketing. I'm just kind of shifting like, okay, you know what? Like, let's wholesale more just in case. And I had already planned to wholesale more anyway because I wanted to do more deals, but I don't want to do more flips.
Right. That's exactly where we're at. We have 2 big flips right now that we're working on selling. So one's a $2 million deal and then one's a $1 million deal. And what we've realized is that we're just a little over leveraged being in the luxury game. So we're trying to pull back on that and just focus more on the wholesale side and then do more wholesale fix and flips.
So, I mean, what's the plan going forward? Like, you know, with the MLS, to me anyways, I've known a lot of guys who have done it for years. And, you know, that's how I got started. I would find deals off the MLS and, you know, I was very successful on the MLS for a long time using very similar strategies to what you're saying. And then we had a period of a couple of years where we weren't very good at the MLS. Like I was not doing it. You know, our MLS guy wasn't very good. And then, you know, this year we've been doing really good again. You know, Ray, who I mentioned earlier, who's been through Agent Investor, you know, he's getting 4 or 5 deals a month, you know, by himself. And so, you know, we're back to doing really good off the MLS. And so it just shows like it's always been there. Like everyone can always do good on the MLS. You know, my guys, the Boakley brothers, they've been on this show a couple of times and you know, they crush it off the MLS. Like that's all they do. Like I meet a lot of investors who spend no marketing dollars and just do great on the MLS.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's going to be my primary focus. I mean, it's obviously the staple of our entire business and what we preach and teach everybody else. But I think that the opportunity is just always there. I think opportunity is wherever you want it to be. And I think that the minute you start looking for it and you start like actually like manifesting it, you attract it. And so with the deals, you have to wake up with the mentality that people need your help. People want your offers. Agents want to work with you. Even if it's not this deal, it's the next deal. And then it just goes back to the authenticity and making sure you create win-win situations for yourself and the agent. Aside from that, I mean, I'm here to stay in the MLS game. I think that's where the future is going to be. And I'm trying to get even louder and just take this message nationwide. I want everyone in the entire country that's an agent to be implementing this and adding this tool to the tool belt.
All right, so let's take a step back and look at what exactly is wholesaling. Wholesaling is essentially getting a property under contract. Key is under contract, you have not bought it. And then selling the contract to somebody else who will actually buy it. So for instance, a seller might say, I'm willing to take $70,000 from my property. You as the wholesaler will put the property under contract for you to buy it for $70,000. What will happen next is you will then assign your rights to the contract to another person who is willing to pay more than you. Maybe my friend flips houses and he's willing to pay $80,000 for it. So I will make the spread between what he's willing to pay and what I have it under contract for. This spread is called my assignment fee or my wholesale fee. And in this case, it would be $10,000. From there, that person would fund $80,000, $70,000 would go to the seller, $10,000 would go to me, the property would go to them. Everyone wins, everyone's happy. I've done hundreds of deals doing this same exact thing. And I've done deals being in every spot of the transaction. I've been the wholesaler, I've been the end buyer, and I've been the seller. So that is the big picture of how it plays out. And trust me, I know you still might be confused. So I wanna take this from step to step of how this actually happens. So the first thing you need to do is get the proper contract. You can go to futureflipper.com and get the same exact contract that I use. There are 2 contracts you need. The first one is the residential purchase agreement, and the second one is the assignment agreement. So what you're gonna do is take the residential purchase agreement. Ours is only 3 pages, it's super self-explanatory. You guys can use it. The next thing you're gonna do is find a good deal somewhere. I'm gonna talk later in the video about how to find good deals, but stay with me. I just wanna talk about the actual process of how it plays out first. So you're gonna find a seller who's willing to sell at a discount. Now, how big of a discount is gonna depend on your market. A basic formula that you'll see online that many people use is 70% of ARV minus repairs. So what is ARV? ARV is after repair value. That is the price it's gonna sell for once it's fixed up and in great condition. Then you're gonna take 70% of that number and minus the repairs. So for instance, let's say the ARV is $100,000. 70% of that would be $70,000. And let's say the property needed $20,000 in repairs. So you would take the $70,000 minus the $20,000, and that gives you $50,000. That is the max offer someone is willing to pay for it. Now, if that's what somebody is willing to pay for it, you gotta get paid somehow, so you actually need to get it cheaper than that. So if I know somebody's willing to pay $50,000 max, I then know that anything I can get below that is gonna be my profit. So maybe the seller's willing to sell me this house for $30,000. What I would do next is get the seller under contract with the residential purchase agreement for $30,000. I would say, I, Ryan Pineda, am the buyer. I'd put the seller's name, the address, and the $30,000 purchase price. Now, when I say I, Ryan Pineda, you can use your personal name if you don't have an LLC. If you have an LLC, use that. But an LLC is not necessary to start wholesaling. I get that question a lot too, so no, you do not need an LLC. Now, I have my residential purchase agreement. Next thing I'm gonna go do is open escrow with the title company. This would be a local company, and I am going to give them the residential purchase agreement. I'm gonna give them the earnest money deposit we agreed upon. That is in the contract. It can be as little as $10, $100, $500, $1,000. It's whatever you agree to with the seller. But make sure that you can cover that amount of money, because you have to put that money with the title company in order for the contract to be valid. So you open escrow, you deposit your earnest money deposit. Now you gotta go find a buyer. I'm gonna talk later in this video about how to find a buyer, but let's say you already found one, he's willing to pay 50 grand. You're then gonna send him the assignment agreement, and the assignment agreement is gonna be for $20,000. Because remember, you had it under contract for $30,000, they're willing to pay 50, your profit is 20. You send them the assignment agreement, which you get when you download my contracts, and then you send that assignment agreement to the title company. The title company is then gonna run all their searches. They're gonna make sure the seller's legit, make sure that all the liens and all the different fees are paid, and then they're gonna get all their closing documents prepared. Once they get their closing documents prepared, the seller signs their piece, the buyer signs their piece, the buyer then sends in the $50,000 plus any other fees, and then the title company works their magic. They send the $30,000 to the seller is satisfied and happy. They send the $20,000 to you as the wholesaler, you are satisfied and happy, and then the buyer is deeded over the property. They now own another piece of real estate. Everyone wins. And from there, your work is done. You get paid and it's on to the next deal. I got into the real estate investing game back in 2015, and in my first 3 years of doing it, I never spent any money on marketing. During that time, I was able to buy over 80 homes just strictly from looking on the MLS and networking with wholesalers and realtors. And the great thing about that was pretty much all of the money that I was making from the flips was net profit, because I didn't have a sales team, I didn't have to pay for marketing, didn't even have an office at the time, so I was making really good money starting out. But in 2018, I decided that I wanted to go big. I wanted to do over 100 flips in 1 year. But to hit that goal, I knew I was gonna have to start spending money that I wasn't used to. It was during that year that I leased a new office, I hired employees like my sales team, like project managers, and I started to spend some money on marketing. The very first thing I did when I started marketing was buy a list of data for people to cold call. Now there are a whole bunch of different lists that you can get for data. the one list that we got was free and clear homes that were owned for over 10 years. Essentially, somebody who's bought 10 years ago has seen their house go up a ton, and they have a ton of equity because they don't have a loan. So that means that there's a potential to get a really good deal since you don't have any constraints. So I pulled that list among many others, and then I gave them to a team of cold callers that I hired to sit in my office and call these sellers all day with. And that was when I made my very first mistake with marketing. For one, I had them hand dialing every single number on their cell phone. If you can imagine, that is extremely inefficient. Almost every single telemarketing company uses what's called an auto dialer. You would just upload the list into the auto dialer, you put your headset on, and it will just call all the numbers for you, and all you have to do is just wait for someone to pick up. That is how smart companies do it. But when I was starting out, I wasn't a very smart company because I was new to marketing. And so as they hand dialed every single day, we started to just burn through money because we were not getting any deals. The reality with all marketing is that it is a volume game. In order to get just one deal, you've got to dial thousands of sellers just because so many of them don't answer, and the ones that do most likely are going to tell you no. And we weren't reaching that many sellers because we were just hand dialing very slowly. I wouldn't be surprised if we called less than 100 numbers a day, whereas now we can call thousands a day. The other mistake I realized from this strategy was having the cold callers in my office. For one, the office would always be people just calling, and it'd be really annoying just walking through it. I personally don't want to hear people getting rejected every day. It kind of just kills my vibe. The second thing that was annoying was when I would look out my window and see all these people not calling and not doing their work. So there were times where people were working and doing what they should, but there were a lot of times where you see them call a couple of people in an hour. And that's obviously not gonna lead to any deals. And if I'm paying these people hourly, it's just something that can't happen. So overall, after a few months of doing that, we were actually fortunate enough to get a couple of deals, but I scrapped the entire program. I got rid of all of my in-house cold callers and just kept my very best ones to remain as sales agents for the team. In fact, I only have one person who still remains from that era that started as a cold caller. His name is Michael. You may have seen him in some of my other videos, but he has done so many deals for the company. And it's funny because we talk about those times of what it was like starting cold calling directly from your phone and to now all of the systems and process we have. But anyways, back to the story. So after I got rid of all my in-house cold callers, we decided to go get virtual assistants to start cold calling instead. I knew that cold calling was good and it was cheap and it would lead to deals, but I just needed people who were more willing to do it. And what was crazy was these virtual assistants who are getting paid $3 to $5 an hour were doing a better job than the Americans who were getting paid $15 an hour. I think when it comes to tedious work like this, Americans just aren't as motivated to do it as opposed to virtual assistants in these other countries. But nonetheless, we started using the VAs and having them push the leads to my sales team, and all of a sudden, we were getting way more deals. And throughout that time in 2018, we ended up pushing our budget to about $10,000 a month between hiring these VAs to cold call, between pulling data, and just running our marketing team. And it was really good because that $10,000 was getting us a 10x return on the money. Now, as we went into 2019, I was a bit unsure of the market because they had raised interest rates at the end of 2018, and I had ended up losing for the very first time on flipping houses on a bunch of properties I had. And so I didn't want to go all in on a big budget right away, so I just remained with the $10,000 a month budget. And that remained more of the same. We were making anywhere from 5 to 10x a month on the budget, but what I was starting to figure out with marketing was that we were mismanaging how we did the sales process. We weren't following up the right way. Our sales team was not going on appointments. We were trying to close everything over the phone. And I just realized if we got good at going on appointments, if we got better at follow-up, we were gonna close way more deals. Well, towards the end of 2019, we started to do those things, and I hired a business coach who helped me totally restructure my organization. I also joined a mastermind called The Collective Genius, where I got introduced to a bunch of other great entrepreneurs and investors, and I was ready to commit to something even bigger. So at the beginning of 2020, I started doing TV commercials. I committed to doing $20,000 a month of that, and then still sticking with the $10,000 budget with cold calling, and now adding some PPC. For those you don't know, PPC stands for pay per click. And we basically use it so that we pop up when people search on Google, sell my house for cash or things like that. But what we found was with TV commercials, we were getting such a higher quality of lead than we were with cold calling. And it makes sense, right? In TV, somebody is calling you because they want to sell their house. Whereas with cold calling, we're calling them unannounced. They have no idea, and we're just trying to see if maybe they want to sell it. But all in all, the results were fantastic in 2020, and we had our best year ever, both through the marketing department and just our sales process started getting better, and everything overall was going good. Even though we went through a pandemic, we still kept our marketing going strong during lockdowns. And in fact, I told them to double the TV budget because I knew everyone was gonna be inside, they're gonna be watching TV. And there were gonna be some people that just wanted to sell their house really fast because they didn't know where the world was going. It ended up being a really good bet. And as we went into 2021, I decided that I wanted to take it another step further. And so I authorized the team to raise the budget to $60,000 a month. And with the $60,000 a month, basically what we did was invest more into TV commercials. We continued to cold call. During this time, we were also doing text messaging, which I forgot to mention. We had been doing that along with cold calling during this whole time. But we also added direct mail, and we upped our budget a little bit in PPC. Once you start spending this much money, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. You want to have a more diversified approach so that if something starts falling off in marketing, you're able to ramp something else up. If I were to just go spend $60,000 in TV commercials only, if I have a bad month in TV, it's not looking good for my business. But I will say, when you're just starting out, one thing we teach our students at Future Flipper is to do cheaper forms of marketing like cold calling and texting, or even just networking with the wholesalers and realtors, because you don't have a big budget and you're not able to really diversify because you're not spending enough. But once you get to the level that I'm talking about, where you're spending over 30 grand a month, you want to make sure you got your eggs in multiple baskets. But all in all, in 2021, our budget has fluctuated. We've had months where we've had it at 60,000. I've tried to push it up to 100,000 before, and we didn't have great success, so we ended up dropping the budget again, and it's just kind of been fluctuating, and we will see what it averages out to as the year ends. But that's the thing with marketing, is you got to realize you don't just throw money at marketing and all of a sudden you just make money. In order for the marketing to work, your business has to work properly too. How you intake the lead has to work. How your sales team handles the lead has to work. Are you just spending too much in one area and now you're getting diminishing returns? All these things are questions you'll have to answer as you scale your marketing budget. Also, if you're flipping houses, you gotta ask yourself, how many are you willing to flip? Do you have enough money? Do you have enough contractors? For the last few months, we've been fluctuating between 50 to 60 active flips, which comes out to over $20 million in loans we've had to get to buy those flips. So the point I'm making is, with marketing, you gotta look at your business as a whole when you're deciding how much you wanna spend and what you wanna spend it on. Now, I said that in 2022, I was going to double down on something and I wanted to take it to an even bigger level. And this marketing channel is something that I touched on earlier, but it actually doesn't even cost any money. The thing that I want to double down on in 2022 is both networking and MLS. I want to do such a better job of networking with these wholesalers and realtors and just having a team of people trying to go meet other people who are doing deals. I also want to make sure that we're actively on the MLS, making offers every day, trying to get deals. For the last 2 years, we've done a very poor job of networking and getting deals off the MLS. I think it's happened for two different reasons. For one, our own marketing got so much better that there wasn't necessarily a need to do it. We're getting a lot of deals every month, so it's not like things are a struggle. But I think the other reason is because I'm completely out of it, I'm not out there networking like I was, and I'm not getting deals sent to me like I used to. From 2015 to 2018, I was actively networking, trying to meet every wholesaler, meet every realtor, build relationships, and in turn, I got the majority of my business just from those people. And those are the best kind of deals because you don't have to pay anything to get them. And the moment I started to transition out of the house flipping business on a day-to-day basis, I just noticed that we were getting less and less deals. And it could be because we're just not actively pursuing these relationships, or maybe people just don't send us deals anymore because I'm not really active in it. Like, I don't know. But my point is, in 2022, I am going to double down on this, and I am going to hire a team of people to really hunt for deals on the MLS and to actively pursue relationships and try to get those deals from wholesalers and realtors. I think doing that alone will increase our profit margin significantly because there's not a huge cost to doing it. One way we'll execute execute it is by cold calling realtors like we do sellers. Just try and go take them out to lunch, see if they got anything going on, and see how we can help them grow their business, and in turn, they can give us more deals. We're also gonna launch an internship program again. This year we had 2 different internships that led to a few deals, but more importantly, it led to a couple of employees that I ended up hiring that are great pieces to our team. So I think more internships in 2022 will help, and if you wanna be a part of those internships, make sure you go follow me on Instagram. That's when I post them happening. So all in all, that's my plan to dominate 2022 with my real estate marketing.
You know, looking back of where I start to where I am today, like there's only 5 key things that I can share with you that I don't care what business you do, as long as you can do this 5 steps. Like, you are guaranteed to become the next millionaires.
Is this what you said on my YouTube video?
Yes. And absolutely. Number 1 is you gotta figure out what it is that you want to do. Too many of you, you're just drifting. You know, I see people go to college. They change from one major to another major to another major, and they end up being like 10 years in college, come out and ain't doing shit, right?
Yep.
Dude, so figure out what it is you want to do. The sooner you can figure out what it is that you want to do, okay, the next thing you want to do is you want to find a mentor. You know, you want to find 1 or 2 people, not 10 people, 1 or 2 people online, all right? Because of social media the way it is, there's a bunch of free content out there. Find yourself a mentor and do exactly what they tell you to do. Now listen, you know, find the doer. Find the one that are living the life that you want, making the kind of money that you're desiring to make, and just do exactly what they tell you to do. And then number 3, dude, is you got to commit. And I say this, success is like a marriage. It takes commitment. And most divorce is just the same thing.
Right.
Lack of commitment. Because when you commit, you listen. When you commit to something, you understand that there are going to be good days and bad days. Like, you don't get into a marriage and think it's all going to be rainbows and stars. Dude, Lon and I still fighting to today.
Yeah.
All right? So it takes commitment. Once you commit, you know that you're going to stick with this until you succeed. And then number 4 is a lot of you don't take this massive action. A lot of you are reading the books. You're consuming the content. You're listening to your mentor, but you ain't doing shit, man.
Yeah.
All right? So you got to take massive action, okay? So what you put out, that's what you're going to get back. A lot of you saying, Kong, I have a full-time gig, all right? But I only have 2 hours for this. Dude, then you can't expect to get a deal. You can't expect to get a deal in a couple months.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can get lucky. But let me tell you what I did, all right? Dude, 8 hour, 5 o'clock from 5 a.m., all right? So I'm going to share with you what I have to do, the price I have to pay to get to where I am. The question you should ask yourself is, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to make the sacrifice? Because you look at Pineda, you be like, oh, Pineda did this. But did you know what Pineda had to do many years ago in the back to get to where he is? The question is, are you willing to do that? Most of you will say, I will. But I promise you, when you're going through it, you won't. You will give up. Because it's too hard. And I can tell you, there are times where I want to throw in the towel. There's time where I want to give up. But the reason why I don't is because the main reason is because of my wife. Because I said if I give up, then I'll give up on her, not just myself. So whenever you decide you're like, hey, Colin, I want to throw in the towel, I want to give up. You just got to understand you're not just giving up on yourself, but you're giving up on the people that depend on you to succeed. Your parents. Maybe you wanted to retire them. Maybe you want to buy them the car, the house, or retire and put them on that, send them on that vacation trip. All right, your spouse, your kids, give them the life that they deserve. So when I wanted to quit, man, I think, dude, I can't give up on my wife. I gotta keep pushing. I gotta give her the life that she deserves. Because she been with me since the get-go, and that's what wakes me up every single day until now. Okay, so listen. Okay, knowledge without execution is worthless. You can read all the books, you can listen to all the podcasts, but if you don't put in the work, nothing will happen. Because nothing works, my friend, if you don't. Then number 5, is you just brand it. Take the skills, the knowledge that you have acquired, and you just brand it. Listen, knowing what I know today, you don't have to, you don't have to start wholesaling and get to $100,000 a month and then start your brand. Maybe you start making $10,000 consistently every single month, and then just brand it. Show people exactly what you do, okay? And it open up other doors and opportunities. Affiliate, coaching, consultant, because there are people that don't want to make 6-figure a month, man. Because I remember when I was making $2,000 a month, if someone can show me make $5,000 or $10,000, boom, I'll pay for it.
Right.
And that's it. And then you just brand and open up other doors and opportunities.
I initially did not like talking about money and how much I made and stuff, but every time I did it, people are like, "Oh yeah, show me more. Like, tell me how you did it."
Yeah, so you know, dude, I hear this from people all the time. It's like, hey, Colin, you know, I don't want to go on there and I don't want to show this. I don't want to flex. Well, dude, to me, listen. So if I decided I want to get a six-pack, all right? And you're telling me, hey, follow me. I'll show you how to get a six-pack. But you always wearing a shirt, man? Come on, man, shit. Like,
Why should I trust you?
Correct. How do I know that you really have a six-pack? So sometimes you gotta give them a little sneak peek. You gotta show a little skin. Not all the time. I see that people showing it all the time. It's just overdoing it. Right? But you gotta show. You gotta let people know that, hey, I do what I'm telling you, what I'm doing. So and that's how you own the space. That's how you become authority, right? Now people can see that, hey, he's really doing, and he got the result, and that's exactly what I want.
Yeah. Now let's talk about wholesaling and finding buyers. Back when I started in 2015 flipping houses, there was something called the 70% rule. And what the 70% rule said was, for anyone flipping a house, you should be buying the house at 70% of the ARV minus repairs. So for those of you who don't know, the ARV is the after repair value. So let's just say the ARV is $300,000. You'd have to get it for 70% of that, which would be $210,000, then minus the repairs, call it $30,000. That would mean as a flipper, your max offer was gonna be $180,000 for that particular deal. Now, if a flipper got a deal like that today, they'd be throwing a party because nobody follows that rule anymore. Wholesalers and realtors and everyone else just knows there's such a huge demand that they would never need to sell a deal that cheap. And as my career has evolved, I've seen it go up year after year. I started out using that 70% rule, then it became the 75% rule, then the 80% rule, then the 85% rule. And now it's gotten to the point where it's really crazy because I see some people paying 90%, even 100%. So the reason that I mentioned that in the start of this video is that you don't need a crazy deal to wholesale it. In fact, you could just get a normal deal, and if you're good enough at finding buyers, you can move it. There are many buyers who are purchasing based on speculation that it's gonna appreciate, and there are some who are just looking to hold a property and they need a tax write-off, and so they're willing to pay a lot more. So the point is, people are paying crazy amounts for real estate right now, so you don't need some really deeply discounted deal to make money as a wholesaler. In fact, you could probably just get an average deal and you're still gonna make a lot of money as long as you find the right buyer. So we're here at one of our brand new house flips, sitting on my brand new couch. If you're part of Flip Nation, you wanna go flip this couch, you can have it. It's just sitting here on the street. But we're gonna do something a little different for this video. We are gonna go door knock the neighborhood. Now, door knocking is one of my favorite ways to get deals because it costs you absolutely nothing other than your time. And if you can get in front of a seller face to face, you have a much better chance of getting a deal versus trying to cold call them or get a hold of them on the phone. Now, there are a few ways to door knock. You can do targeted door knocking where you already know the person you want to door knock. Maybe they're in foreclosure, maybe they got a tax lien, you know that they're motivated in some way. The other way you could door knock is just simply blanketing the neighborhood, which is what we're gonna do. I don't know what's going on with any of these other houses. All I know is I have a good sales pitch because I have a flip going on right behind me. So what I'm gonna do is walk up to all the neighbors and let them know that I'm the new owner of this home right here in their neighborhood. I'm gonna let them know that we're gonna fix it up, we're gonna make it look really nice, and in fact, we're gonna raise the value of their properties because we're gonna set a new comp. So it's gonna be good for them. Now, I'm not specifically asking to buy their house. What I am gonna be asking them is if they know anybody else in the neighborhood that wants to potentially sell, or if there's any houses that are eyesores in the neighborhood that they'd like us to buy and fix up and clean. So this approach is actually a really easy way to door knock if you have a property that's near the other people. It's a little more difficult to door knock when you know somebody's in foreclosure and you gotta kind of bring up that subject. It's a little sore, it's a tough conversation, but we have gotten deals that way from door knocking. But that's not what's about to happen.
I'm gonna use the sales pitch I just told you guys, and we're gonna see if we can get a hold of somebody and potentially get some good leads. So before you get started door knocking, you gotta make sure you have the right gear so that you can make a deal. So this is the bag that I always bring on my appointments. It's small, has my laptop, it's got our contracts, but it's got a couple of other things that you guys should want. So the first thing we have is our flyer. So the first thing I'm gonna do is knock on the door. If they answer, I'm gonna hand them the flyer, introduce myself, and then ask them if they know anybody that wants to sell. We have a very professional flyer. You've got me on the back because I'm the guy who's on the commercials and the billboard, so people in the city might recognize me from those. And all that really does is it brings more credibility to us as a home buyer. The second thing I've got with me is a door hanger. Once again, it's me. Guys, I promise I'm not that conceited or all about me. It's just our branding, and if people see me out and about on YouTube or any of these other places, it's easy to connect with our company. And it's super important to build your brand in the community. If people know you and trust you and know that you're a legit buyer who's gonna close, that's gonna give you a leg up over the competition who's maybe never done a deal or seems a little sketch. For us, they see me on TV, they see me on billboards, they see me on YouTube. They know if I give them an offer, I'm gonna buy their house. But what we use these door hangers for is if I knock and they don't answer. That way, you never know, they might call me back and want to do a deal. And the last thing, like I said, is we have our contracts. You never want to go on an appointment or go door knocking if you don't have a contract. That'd be really stupid. If the seller's ready to sell right then and there and you don't have a contract, you lose. So with all that being said, let's go knock some doors. All right, so I got my house flip right here. I'm just gonna start with every neighbor that's right by me because it's an easy introduction to let them know that I'm their new neighbor and they're gonna have someone cool here. So whenever I go door knock or go on an appointment, I always take off my glasses. You wanna make eye contact with people. It shows more personality, it shows more trust, so never wear glasses on an appointment. Second thing I'm gonna do is put on my mask. Even though I hate wearing a mask, obviously I'm gonna be considerate of other people, and I'm gonna knock doors with the mask. So before I go up there, you wanna have your brochure ready to hand to them so you can let them know who you are. Now this is like super gated. There's a gate right here and another gate here. This probably isn't a great one to knock, but they're my next door neighbor, so I'm gonna do it anyway. And it's locked. I figured it would be locked. So guess what we do? Whenever we get a locked door, we put the door hanger on. All right, they might call you back. Door knocking is not an easy game. You gotta get over the fear. You're gonna get yelled at, you're gonna get cussed out, but that's just part of it. All right, here's one that says no trespassing. This one I'm not gonna door knock, all right? I'm not trying to get shot or, you know, whatever. So on to the next one. Take two. Maybe they didn't hear the doorbell. Don't know if it works or not. How you doing? I'm Ryan. We actually just bought that house right there, 516, what are we on, Cragen? Just wanted to introduce myself and see if you guys had anybody else that you know of that was potentially looking to sell their home. We buy homes, we fix them up, we renovate them. That's kind of what we're gonna do with that home over there. I know it's kind of a little beat up. Your house is much nicer on the front yard. But did you know anybody else that was potentially looking to sell in the neighborhood?
No.
No? Okay. Well, if there's anybody that ever comes to mind, you've got our number there. Okay. And, you know, we pay a referral fee as well. So if there's anybody like that, you know, you can call in, and if you have their information, give it to us, and, you know, we can pay you guys a referral fee.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you. All right. So that wasn't too bad. They got a nice house. Let's go try another one. I left a door hanger on your house. Yeah, so we just bought the house next door. I'm Ryan, by the way.
Ryan, I'm Julia.
Julia, nice to meet you.
You bought it for a real good price.
We did get a good price on it. You saw?
I heard.
Yeah, so we're gonna be fixing and flipping it. So it's gonna look really nice soon. Probably in like...
You almost bought it last time I was sold.
How long ago was that?
I've been here for 22 years.
Wow.
And I was already here, so maybe about 18, 19 years.
Okay.
Like that.
Long time.
Yeah, and it was okay, but it was a little bit too dirty for me. Well, they had dogs and they had kids, and the lady told me, I educate my kids, I don't clean after them.
Right.
And they were little. When they moved to this house, they were like 10, 11.
Yeah.
I think they're going to wreck the market because for $240,000, it's going to kill my house.
No, it's actually the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, because we're going to fix that up and we're going to renovate it super nice and we're going to probably sell it for $360, $370.
I hope so.
No, we will. There's no doubt about it. It's actually going to raise the value for everybody because we're going to sell it for so high. When things sell off market like that, they don't even show on the MLS or comps or appraisers. I went to Hyde Park Middle School right here.
My son did too. That's why I moved here.
How old's your son?
He's 29.
Okay, so I'm 31. So he would have been a little younger than me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Hyde Park.
Yeah, I loved it because they had a swimming pool.
Yep.
And I used to live at Durango and Desert Inn in those houses, and I could never make it on time because
Okay.
I was working graveyard.
Yeah.
And they were going to kick him out of the program.
Yeah.
So we looked and we found this house, and yeah, you can walk.
We just bought it. We're gonna fix it up. We got to put a lot of money into it to get it nice again, and it's gonna raise the value for everybody.
They did a lot of work to that house.
They did a beautiful job at that house.
Job.
This is gonna be just as beautiful as that. Well, the only reason I was knocking to introduce myself, let you know what we were doing, and then just let you know if there was any other houses you know of in the neighborhood that was looking to sell, and that we could fix up, and try and help the neighborhood out a little bit and make some money.
Yeah, I will. Your name is in the.
Yep. So our phone number's on that door hanger right there.
Yeah.
If you ever have any issues, you can call in, especially even if you see something happen during our flip.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that house is like cursed. It's been dirty for at least 20 years that I know of.
no, it's beautiful, nice neighborhood, and
Yeah.
cool.
I will keep your numbers. And what do you think it's going to be for sale?
Probably 2 months.
Really?
Yeah. No, I mean, we flipped hundreds of homes, in this neighborhood, other neighborhoods. So if you ever watch TV, you might see our commercials and stuff.
You are.
Home run offer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Cool.
Well, thank you very
All right.
much.
Nice meeting you. Nice lady. Didn't expect anything of it, but you never know. Might be a lead later. How you guys doing? Not too much. We're just introducing ourselves in the neighborhood. We bought that house right there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. So just seeing, if anybody else had any houses for sale or anything like that, or, just meeting people too.
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I just actually moved not so long ago here with my sister.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
How long you guys been living here?
For like 4 months.
Oh, okay. So you guys just moved in. Wow. Yeah, we if you guys ever see any houses that are kind of like that one, a little beat up, that need work, we pay referral fees to anybody that brings us a deal.
Okay.
A few $1,000 if you guys are interested.
There's a lot of houses by my dad lives.
Where your dad live at? Yeah, there's a lot over there. We flipped a lot of homes in downtown. Yeah. If you come across anything, just call that number.
Okay.
Let them know that you got a house somebody wants to sell, and we'll hit you guys with a referral fee.
Sounds good, man.
Cool, man.
No, anything.
All right, guys. All right, take care. All right, so obviously none of those people wanted to sell their home, but we set some good seeds that could potentially be deals down the road. Think about it. If you knocked 100 doors every single day, you handed out your flyer, your door hanger, you are going to get a deal. You're gonna get a deal from somebody that you knock, or you're gonna get a deal from one of the other people that you gave your information to, and they're gonna send you something. So if you're tight on cash and you don't wanna market, then door knocking is a great way to get started. My advice would be to get a list, which you can get for free from title companies, and then go find some pre-foreclosures that you wanna door knock specifically, or just go to older areas where there are homes that need a lot of work, and then just door knock them all. You never know what will happen. So this is a very common question. I actually get it on TikTok all the time. And obviously with TikTok, I have a younger audience. A lot of them are teenagers to college kids, so they don't have a lot of money, and they're very concerned what's gonna happen if they try to wholesale and they can't sell the deal. But let's back up for a second and first off talk about what exactly is wholesaling. Here's the 1-minute breakdown. Wholesaling is flipping without actually having to buy the home.
Instead of flipping the home, you're flipping the contract to purchase the home. So let's just say I get a property under contract with a seller for $100,000. And I know that my buddy who's a flipper will pay $120,000. Well, instead of me having to go and buy the property and then sell it to my buddy, I can simply just sell him the contract to the property. That way I don't have to buy it. And what I'm doing is called assigning the contract. And my buddy is going to pay me an assignment fee. And that's all it is. It's really that simple. Once I assign him the contract, he is now gonna fund the deal for $120,000. $100,000 goes to the seller, $20,000 goes to me, the property goes to him. So there's this triangle now where everyone gets what they want. And that's why a lot of young people wanna start wholesaling, because you don't need any money. You don't need to go get $100,000 to buy the property. You just have to find a good deal. That's it. So the question is always, well, what happens when you get a deal but you can't sell it? What if there's no buyer for it? And that's why a lot of people don't even start wholesaling, because they're scared that they're gonna get sued, they're scared that they're gonna be forced to buy it, they're scared that they're gonna get in trouble, I don't know. But the fact is, you shouldn't be. Because with like anything in life, there's a lot of different ways out of a contract. But before we do that, make sure you go and hit the like button so that more people can see this video. And if you want more videos like this, make sure you go subscribe to my channel. I cover a ton of different real estate topics just like this one. Now, before we get into the contract side of it, there are two reasons why your deal didn't sell. The first reason is it's not a good deal. You put it under contract for a price that was too high and nobody's willing to pay it. For most new wholesalers, that's typically the case. They don't know how to evaluate numbers yet, so they think that they have a good deal when in reality they don't. The second reason why it might not have sold is your buyer's list isn't big enough yet. Maybe you do have a really good deal, but you just don't have enough buyers yet. Now, I'm not gonna cover those two topics in this video. I'll have to make other videos to do that because they're very big topics. So if you want me to make those two videos, make sure you leave a comment below about which one is most important to you. Is it getting better at evaluating deals, or is it building your buyer's list? Which one do you want to know more about? All right, so we know why we couldn't sell the deal. So how do we get out of the contract so we don't get sued or we don't lose our money? Well, let's first talk about the contract. Now, everyone has a different contract. I cannot tell you what you legally have to do or what you've agreed to. So to make things simple, you can actually download my contract that I use to purchase and wholesale deals for free. All you have to do is go to futureflipper.com, it's in the link below, and you can download our contracts absolutely free. And that will give you the same purchase contract we use as well as the assignment contract we use. Now, I'm assuming that you're using my contract because that's all I can verify. There are two clauses you need to understand with the deal as it relates to backing out and getting your money. The first clause is the earnest money deposit. So this deposit is what you're gonna put down at the title company to basically show good faith to the seller that you're gonna buy the property. And this amount is completely negotiable. I've seen some people use $10 on a contract, $100. And then I've seen deals where people have had to put $100,000 because it's a very high-end property. So obviously the more you put down, the stronger your offer will look. But if you're just starting out, I don't see a problem putting $100 down. In fact, on a lot of our deals now, we only put $500 down, $1,000 down. So it doesn't have to be a big amount. And honestly, most sellers don't even really know what it is. So don't go in thinking you have to put this extravagant amount of money down, but you do have to put something. And the seller has to agree to that. Now, this is what you're liable for. If you don't perform on the contract, meaning you don't buy the property or find someone else to buy the property, then the seller has the right to take that money. And I'm not gonna get into how it works with them getting the money because that's a whole headache in itself. Even if they're entitled to the money, they cannot actually get it from the title company unless you sign off on it. So almost every single time an earnest money deposit is in dispute, it always has to be fought for, even if there may be a party that it clearly belongs to, because both sides have to sign off for the title company to release it. And sometimes it has to go to court over who gets it, especially if it's a big amount. Now, if we're talking $100 earnest money deposit or something like that, at the end of the day, who cares, right? So the earnest money deposit is what you are liable for. And you must deposit that money to the title company when you have the signed contract and you're opening escrow. I see a lot of wholesalers who don't deposit earnest money at all, and technically their contract is void. If you don't deposit earnest money, the contract is void. A deal can still go through, but if a seller wants to back out, they have every right to do it because you didn't perform the very first thing, which is depositing earnest money. Okay, so you know what you're liable for now. But even with that earnest money deposit, there are still ways to back out of the deal. The second portion of the contract that you need to look into is the due diligence period. Now, the due diligence period, like the earnest money deposit, is totally negotiable. You can make it 0 days, you can make it 10 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever you and the seller agree on. Now, just like with the earnest money deposit, the bigger it is, the stronger your offer looks because you're putting more down. With a due diligence period, the shorter it is, the stronger your offer looks. If you make it for, say, 2 days, that means after 2 days, your earnest money deposit is going hard, meaning that it is now non-refundable. So when you're negotiating the due diligence period, make sure you have enough time to determine whether you're gonna get a buyer or not. I would say a very standard due diligence is 10 to 14 days. I don't think most sellers would have an issue with that. But if they want a shorter due diligence period, just know you better hope you have a deal or you're gonna put your earnest money deposit at risk. Now, what are you supposed to do during the due diligence period? This is your period to go get your inspections, to market the deal, look for your buyer. That's what you need to use this period for. You have to determine whether you're gonna actually buy the house or not. Okay, now let's just say your due diligence period is 10 days and you've sent it out to your buyers and the conclusion is you have it too high, meaning that you're paying too much. There's not enough of a spread. You have it for $100,000, your buyers only wanna pay $90,000. So now you have the choice. You can either back out of the deal so that you get your earnest money deposit back because you're within the due diligence period. Or the second option, which you should go for, is the renegotiation. You still have 3 days left, so you might as well see if the seller is willing to give you it for a lower price. So the first thing you need to do is figure out where exactly do you need to be. If you have a trustworthy buyer and you know they're gonna buy it at $90,000, then you know that's the number I need to get under to make some money. If you don't have any buyers at all and you have no idea what you're gonna be able to sell it for, then I wouldn't renegotiate because the last thing you wanna do is renegotiate and then you can't perform again and then you lose your earnest money deposit, your reputation's ruined. It's not a good thing. To be honest, we do renegotiate. Sometimes we get into a property and it's in way worse condition than we thought, or we just didn't analyze the deal properly. And so we have to renegotiate. But we know that if we get the price that we renegotiate to, we will close on the deal. We'll buy it or we'll sell it to someone else and the seller will get cashed out. You do not want to renegotiate and then not perform even after they've given you the discount. That's not good business. So before you renegotiate, make sure you have a price in mind that you know somebody will buy it for. Now let's say that you know 90,000 is good. You may go back to the seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I need this property for $80,000 to make the deal make sense. And they may say, why? You said you could buy it for 100. And that's where you need to have justification for why you need a reduction. It may be the inspection. If you had a contractor go in there and you can justify that, hey, it's gonna cost this much to fix the property. It's a lot more than we thought. This is why we need a reduction. They're more likely to give you it. We've also gone the totally honest route where we go straight up to the seller and we say, we totally just misjudged this deal. It's not worth what we thought it was worth. We messed up. For it to make sense and for us to buy it, we need to be at 80,000. And if we can't do it, totally understand, it's totally our fault. We just didn't see the deal properly. And we've had a lot of success with renegotiations that way as well. Seller will respect you for being more honest than anything. And when a seller is presented with either a renegotiation or backing out, they may choose the renegotiation because they do need to sell the property and this may be the only chance they have to do it. So what I'll say is we don't like to renegotiate. We would rather get the deal done for what we say we can get it done for, but it is an unfortunate part of our business, either because construction is more than we thought or we just misevaluated the deal.
So many things I could talk about with Kong and, like just the wholesaling side.
Yep.
I've watched your business. You do it out of, the Seattle area.
Yep.
And everything is all virtual. You have a team of VAs that literally close deals for you. And I've seen you guys will do $200,000 a month in wholesales. It's crazy. But everyone already knows all about that. If you guys want another interview with Kong about his wholesaling operation, definitely comment below so you can let us know. And also subscribe to his channel as well because he talks a ton about wholesaling. But that actually reminds me, I owe you $2,000.
Oh, hell yeah.
What was the bet?
The bet was whoever gets 100,000 subscribers on YouTube first and 1 million follower on TikTok first wins the $2,000.
Yeah.
So thanks for the purse, Ryan.
I think you hit 100,000 today. Did you hit it?
Yep. We're at almost, man. We're only about like 20 something away.
20 people away?
Yep.
All right, so I don't know him yet. I'm not gonna pay him right now because you gotta hit it.
That's right.
Anyways, that bet was a cheating bet because you already had a huge head start. He had a TikTok and YouTube for years before I got on it.
But the thing is, you guys, before I'm sorry to cut in, but I gotta give Ryan so much credit, and I have huge respect for this guy because I understand I understand how competitive YouTube is, but he went all organic and grew it from what, 0 to like 70,000 now?
Right around there, yeah.
From what, 3 months or 4 months?
Yeah, about 5 months we
started really hitting it hard.
It's mind-blowing. And
Yeah.
all of you think you're good, I challenge you to do the same, because this, dude, he's taking his content like the greatest right here, man.
I appreciate that, dude. And that's actually what I want to talk to you about, because, you know, we talk a lot about wholesaling, and there's a lot of great guys. That's actually why we're here, right?
Yep.
You and I are not the biggest and baddest wholesalers and flippers here, but we're one of the only ones actually doing content.
Yep.
And that's, I remember in March, okay, remember pandemic's hitting.
Yep.
That was the first time I really met you and got to talk to you.
Yep.
And you were like, dude, you got to get on TikTok.
Yep.
You got to do this. And I was like, dude, why am I going to get on TikTok? And I just did it. And it's been a game changer.
Yep.
And that also led down to creating YouTube,
Yep.
which is the only reason you guys are watching this now. So if you guys like my content, you have to thank this guy for getting me on it. But I watch yours, and
Yep.
you've got almost 2 million on TikTok.
Yep.
You've got obviously almost 100,000 on YouTube.
Yep.
By the time this plays, you'll have 100.
Yeah.
And like, how did you do it? Because people love you. I see the fans.
Oh, man.
You do the fans, you know, that
Yeah,
see
me.
you.
Yeah.
Like, people know you everywhere.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, you know, how you do it, it's just do it. I think a lot of times what it is people overthink, you know, when they're trying to create content. People think about, well, you know, when should I post? How many times should I post?
Yeah.
You know, it's just do it. You know, and a lot of people trying to figure out like the YouTube algorithm, the
Right.
TikTok algorithm. Dude, there is no algorithm, man. If your content is good, people will like it and people will share and people will push it out. If
Right.
it's not good, then it means you suck. So you need to go back and work on yourself and get better at content creating, man.
Right. Well,
You
and the thing I like too is that if you create more content and it sucks, you at least now know.
Yep.
And you can change it up.
Correct.
And get better. But you don't know that unless you post.
Correct. But dude, don't ever get into the BS. Hey, Ryan, I'm gonna follow you, so follow me back. Like, what the hell is that? Follow me so I follow you back, dude? None of that, man. You see, the marketplace will tell you if you're good enough. And if you think you're good enough, then put out valuable content.
Yeah. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Thanks for making it to the end. The good news is I've got another one that I know you're going to like, and all you got to do is click it right here. Linking it right here. All you got to do is just click it, and you're going to see this new episode that you're going to love.